Scafell Pike (Scafell) or Scafell is the highest mountain in England, at an elevation of 978 meters above sea level. It is located in the Lake District National Park, in Cumbria, and is part of the Southern Fells. Topography: Scafell Pike is one of a horseshoe of high fells, open to the south, surrounding the head of Eskdale, Cumbria. It stands on the western side of the cirque, with Scafell to the south and Great End to the north. This ridge forms the watershed between Eskdale and Wasdale, which lies to the west. The narrowest definition of Scafell Pike begins at the ridge of Middle Door in the south, takes in the wide, stony summit area, and ends at the next depression, Broad Crag Col. c. 920 meters. A more inclusive view also takes in two further tops, Broad Crag 934 meters and Ill Crag 935 meters, the two being separated by Ill Crag Col. This is the position taken by most guidebooks. North of Ill Crag is the more definite depression of Calf Cove at 850 meters before the ridge climbs again to Great End. Scafell Pike also has outliers on either side of the ridge. Lingmel, to the northwest, is invariably regarded as a separate fell, while Pen, 760 meters, a shapely summit above the Esk, is normally taken as a satellite of the Pike. Middleboot Knots is a further top lying on the Wasdale slopes of Broad Crag, which is listed as a nuttall. The rough summit plateau is fringed by crags on all sides, with Pike's Crag and Dropping Crag above Wasdale and Rough Crag to the east. Below Rough Crag and Pen is a further tier, named Dow Crag and Central Pillar on Ordnance Survey maps, although known as Esk Buttress among climbers. Esk Buttress and Pike's Crag are well-known rock climbing venues. Broad Crag Col is the source of Little Narrow Cove Beck in the east and of Piers Gill in the west. The latter works its way around Lingmel to Wastwater through a spectacular ravine, one of the most impressive in the Lake District. It is treacherous in winter, as when it freezes over it creates an icy patch, with lethal exposure should you slip. Broad Crag is a small top with its principal face on the west and the smaller Green Crag looking down on Little Narrow Cove. From Broad Crag, the ridge turns briefly east across Ill Crag Col and onto the shapely pyramidal summit of Ill Crag. Here, the main crags are on the Eskdale side, Ill Crag having little footing in Wasdale. Scafell Pike has a claim to the highest standing water in England, although Fox's Town on Scafell is of similar height. The water body in question is Broad Crag Tarn, which is on Scafell Pike proper, rather than Broad Crag. It lies at about 820 meters, a quarter of a mile south of the summit. The summit ridge from Ill Crag to Middle Door is notoriously stony, the surface being composed in many places of fields of boulders. Paths are not marked by the usual erosion of soil, but by colored marks on the rock following the passage of many thousands of booted feet. The summits of Ill and Broad Crags are bypassed by the ridge path, but it leads unerringly to the highest point. This bears an Ordnance Survey triangulation column beside a massive cairn, not now in the best of repair, but unmistakable from any distance. Still 6 feet high and much greater in diameter. A little distance away is the lower South Peak summit. The summit was donated to the National Trust in 1919 by Lord Leconfield, in perpetual memory of the men of the Lake District who fell for God and King, for freedom, peace and right in the Great War 1914 to 1918. There is a more well-known war memorial on Great Gable, commemorating the members of the Fellinamp Rock Climbing Club. Scafell Pike is one of 3 British peaks climbed as part of the National 3 Peaks Challenge, and is the highest ground for over 90 miles. Geology: Scafell Pike consists of igneous rock dating from the Ordovician. It is geologically part of the Borrowdale volcanics. The summit plateau of Scafell Pike, and that of other neighboring peaks, is covered with shattered rock debris, which provides the highest altitude example of a summit boulder field in England. The boulder field is thought to have been caused in part by weathering, such as frost action. Additional factors are also considered to be important, however, opinion varies as to what these may be. James Clifton Ward suggested that weathering with earthquakes as a secondary agent could be responsible, while John Edward Marr and Reginald Aldworth Daly believed that earthquakes were unnecessary and suggested that frost action with other unspecified agents was more likely. To the north of the summit are a number of high-altitude gills which flow into Lingmel Beck. These are good examples in Cumbria for this type of gill and are also biologically important due to the species richness. Ascent routes. From Wasdale, the ascent of the Pike is most often attempted from Wasdale Head. This is at the north end of Wastwater to the west of the Pike, and is at about 80 meters above sea level. There is a famous climbers' hotel here, the Wasdale Head Inn, made popular in the Victorian period by Owen Glyn Jones and others. On summer weekends, crowds of people can be found attempting the steep but straightforward walk. An alternative ascent from Wasdale approaches Upper Hanging Valley, whose head is at Middledore, which is itself ascended, before following the path from Scafell to the Pike. From Borrowdale, a more taxing, but scenically far superior, approach begins at Seathwaite Farm at the end of Borrowdale, proceeding via Skęː́fɛl, then taking the corridor route, a delightful walk along the western flank of the Scafell Massif with intimate views of the fell, before joining the route from Wasdale near the summit. The return journey can then be made along a high ridge, taking in any or all of the neighbouring summits of Broad Crag, Ill Crag, Great End, Allen Crags and Glaramara. An alternative route from Borrowdale, longer but perhaps less taxing than that via the corridor route, runs from Seathwaite via Grainsgill and the high pass of Eskhouse. From Langdale a further ascent may be made from Langdale. For the Old Dungeon Hotel, the route proceeds up alongside Rossett Gill, past Angle Tarn, and then on to Eskhouse before joining a rocky path to the summit. Energetic walkers can vary the return route by ascending Pike and Bowfell from Eskhouse and then descend Bowfell via the Ban. Another variant which avoids simply returning down Rossett Gill is to head north at the Angle Tarn over Rossett Pike to join the Cumbrian Way, and descend via Stake Pass, adding a mile to the walk. The total distance is about 21 kilometers. Eskhouse is also accessible from Skęː́fɛl Tarn, making another possible route from Seathwaite. From Eskdale, another ascent can be made from Eskdale, the longest and most arduous way up, but it has some very fine scenery. The route follows the River Esk as far as the Great Moss Boggy Plateau. Walkers then have a choice of ascending steeply up to Middledore, the low ridge between Scafell and Scafell Pike, or following the Esk to its source at Eskhouse. A third possible route up from Great Moss is Little Narrow Cove, a steep ascent which emerges onto the ridge a few hundred meters northeast of the summit. Naming history. The name Scafell derives from the Old Norse skale, meaning either the fell with the shieling or the fell with the bald summit, and is first recorded in 1578 in the corrupted form Scalfield. It originally referred to Scafell, which neighbours Scafell Pike. What are now known as Scafell Pike, Ill Crag, and Broad Crag were collectively called the Pikes of Scafell. From many angles Scafell seems to be the highest peak, and the others were thus considered subsidiary to it. The name Scafell Pike was adopted between 1818 and 1856. Before this, England's highest mountain did not have a name of its own, and was labelled Scafell higher top on Ordnance Survey maps. Formerly the name was spelled ʻskɔː́fɛl, which better reflects local pronunciation. This spelling has declined due to the Ordnance Survey's preference for Scafell. Survey point. Scafell Pike was used in 1826 as a station in the principal triangulation of Britain by the Ordnance Survey when they fixed the relative positions of Britain and Ireland. Angles between level.It and Snowdon were taken from Scafell Pike, as were angles measured from stations on each of the other two mountains. Given the need for clear weather to achieve these very long-range observations, the Ordnance Surveyors spent most of the summer camped on the respective mountain tops. Strangely, Scafell Pike was not used as a station in the earlier part of the principal triangulation of Britain, even though Scafell formed one corner of a principal triangle. Gallery. Views from the summit. Summer-winter visible. Marylands. As the highest ground in England, Scafell Pike naturally has a very extensive view, ranging from the Mourne Mountains to Snowdonia. On a clear day, the following Marylands can be seen from the summit. The data is from the first external link below. North Dunrig, 77 miles, 2 degrees. Binsey, 18 miles, 2 degrees. Turnacluclaw, 71 miles, 4 degrees. Dale Head, 5 miles, 5 degrees. Wisp Hill, 58 miles, 11 degrees. Skiddaw, 14 miles, 12 degrees. Roan Fell, 55 miles, 15 degrees. Knott, 17 miles, 17 degrees. Peel Fell, 63 miles, 24 degrees. Blencathra, 14 miles, 28 degrees. The Cheviot, 83 miles, 31 degrees. Coldfell, 39 miles, 39 degrees. East Howgill Fells, 29 miles, 103 degrees. Bowfell, 2 miles, 105 degrees. Yorkshire Three Peaks, 36, 44 and 38 miles, 119 degrees. Bowlesworth Hill, 63 miles, 135 degrees. Pendle Hill, 55 miles, 138 degrees. Woodstone, 38 miles, 142 degrees. The Old Man of Coniston, 7 miles, 149 degrees. Windhill, 64 miles, 154 degrees. South Snaefell, 52 miles, 257 degrees. Slevedonard, 111 miles, 262 degrees. Slevecrube, 112 miles, 268 degrees. West Benared, 80 miles, 303 degrees. Merrick, 69 miles, 315 degrees. Pillar, 4 miles, 318 degrees. Kensmore of Carsfern, 68 miles, 326 degrees. High Style, 6 miles, 328 degrees. Criffel, 37 miles, 334 degrees. Grassmoor, 18 miles, 342 degrees. Great Gable, 2 miles, 351 degrees.